All right, so in this video, we are going to address goal setting. With our goal setting model, right, as we're going to try to help our employees set goals, and as we set goals for our employees, we want to make sure that those goals are assigned to specific people. Self-efficacy relates to just the personal belief that you can achieve that goal. And so it's really important that we have self-efficacy when we're assigning teams that our team members have that level of self-efficacy. Because if they start off thinking that they can't achieve that goal, then ultimately the goal is dead before it even gets started. We also want to have our team members create those personal goals. And we want to make sure that it is more personal to them, right? And so let's say we have a goal as an organization to increase our sales. And one way we've decided to do that is to increase our appetizer sales. Okay, so now we give a challenge to each one of our employees to sell 5 appetizers during a shift, right? So we want to make sure that they feel comfortable and confident that they can do that. And if they can't, that's where we can bring in some coaching, we can bring in some additional training to help those team members that need that little push, that little boost of confidence, okay? Then we also want to make sure that those goals are personal to them. And so how do you do that? Okay, well, we want to make sure that they understand that if they sell appetizers, then that ultimately increases their total check value. Okay, so let's say the appetizer is $5 and their usual average check is $15. Well, if that's the case and we sell an appetizer, that now brings it up to $20. And if people are tipping on 15 or 20%, well, now your check value is higher, which means tips are going to increase. So we want to make sure that they understand the personal effect, the effect on them that that goal can have, and then ultimately increase the performance. The goals need to be SMART, okay? They need to be specific, they need to be measurable, achievable, realistic, and they need to have an end time, okay? So if I just said I want to increase my sales, well, that's not specific, and it's not measurable. It could be achievable, and it is realistic that we could increase our sales, but there's no time. So now if I go back and I say, I want to increase my sales by selling more appetizers, then that still is not necessarily a completely SMART goal. It's specific, it's measurable. If I sell one more appetizer, well, guess what? I've made my goal. So we want to make sure that they're very specific and they are achievable and they're realistic. So if I just say I want to increase my sales by having every server sell 15 more appetizers per shift, is that realistic? Is it achievable? I don't know what your organization's like, but in my organization, in my head, in this situation, that's not achievable. I'm going to start slowly increasing. So now I'm going to say I would like to increase my sales by having every server sell 4 additional appetizers per shift through the month of August. So now it's specific. I want to increase it by selling more appetizers. It's measurable because I can see if each person sold 4 or not. 4 sounds like an achievable number in my mind. It is realistic. And then through the month of August, that's my end time frame. Okay, so that's how you want to make sure that your goals are SMART. They include all 5 of those aspects. Additional characteristics of effective goals, they need to be cost effective. Okay, so let's say your goal is to improve errors or to decrease errors in ticket writing, because right now we write with paper tickets. So we're going to buy a Micros, a computer system. We're going to implement that. And so we want to look and see what the cost is there, and is it going to be cost effective in the long run if we're not going to have to remake food or if we're not going to be making orders wrong. And so if that cost effective balances out, then yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Okay. We want to have controllable goals. We want to have those outcomes that we feel like we have control over instead of just putting this wild dream out there. We want to make sure that the objectives that we have we have somewhat control over them. Okay. Again, those needs, it needs to balance the needs. So if we see that we're having a lot of errors because our servers have horrible handwriting and the cooks can't read it, well, then we might need to implement a computerized system, okay, and then have those objectives measured. When we're looking at setting goals for our employees, we want to specify the task that's going to be completed. So selling more appetizers. We want to make it challenging, but we also want to make it attainable. We don't want to make it so challenging that they don't feel successful. Okay, but at the same time, we don't want to make it too easy. Because we want the servers, we want them to take it seriously. We want to talk about how their performance is going to be measured. So up front, this is how it's going to be measured. This is what we expect from you, and this is the end result. Okay, how can we reach that outcome? The deadline might be, in this case, at the end of our shift. We want you to sell 4 appetizers. Okay, now if we have multiple goals, we might prioritize those and tell them which ones are more important. Okay. The last thing is we want to establish that plan of action. And so before we even kind of think about this, as again goes kind of into that planning stage of all these different aspects, how can we address this? And then here's our plan of action. This is what we're actually going to do. This is the time frame of our plan, and this is how we're going to evaluate it in the end. We want to provide support for our employees to accept the goals. Okay. We also want them to participate in that goal setting process if possible. Okay. We might even kind of put out there, what do you all think is a good way? Maybe have a contest to see what's a good way to maybe we can increase revenue. And you can have different input, and then maybe you can select from the best ones. That way it gives them that buy-in, and they're committed to that. We want to look at their capabilities. So if someone has a brand new server, we hired them yesterday, we may not require them to sell all 5 appetizers in one day, in one shift. If they sell, 2 on a shift, we might say that's great, that's a good start. Let's see what we can do to get you up to that 5. Because we've all had those awkward servers who do not have the finesse and the ability to upsell or suggestively sell. They get there and they're like, do you want an appetizer? Well, that's kind of awkward, and no, I'm probably not going to buy an appetizer from you. But if you walked up to my table and said, hey, good morning, my name is David. Thank you for coming into restaurant XYZ. Have you tried our famous crispy zucchini? Oh my gosh, my mouth just started watering. Yes, I want to try your crispy zucchini, right? And so that is a perfect example of how we can coach and train people and know their abilities in order to help them be successful. Okay, rewarding. I think I used this in a previous lecture. I was watching Kitchen Nightmares, and Gordon Ramsay put a chart up on the board for each server. And in the new restaurant, in the new rollout, he wanted to sell each server to sell every single item on the menu. And each time they did, they would come back and put an X in that box, kind of like a bingo board. And then the first person to fill their bingo board got a $100 bill. And he actually put the $100 bill up next to all the bingo boards to have that incentive. And so we want to reward those people who complete their goals. So for example, let's say our goal is for each employee or each server to sell 5 appetizers. If we do that, then each person that sells 5 appetizers, they get their name into a drawing. And at the end of the month or end of the week, we might draw for, movie tickets or something else like tickets to the zoo, things that we can give our employees as incentive, and so we can do the same thing with the kitchen. If we have a goal of minimizing our errors, and so the food that comes back. And so if we have somebody who has a perfect shift and no food that they ever cooked was ever brought back, then their name goes into a hat for a drawing. And so, I come up with ideas to reward those people who complete their goals. If you set a goal for employees that they think is unattainable, what will happen? What do you think will happen? A, B, C, or D? They probably won't work very hard for achieve it because it's too unattainable. They're just like, oh, I'm never going to do that. So guess what? I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing, and I'm not going to work towards that goal. Which of the following goals is measurable? It is measurable. Okay, so this one here for letter C, the end of June decreases the time it takes to check in the guest by 50%. That 50% is the key that it is measurable. Up on letter A, satisfactorily, well, yeah, that's measurable, but what's satisfactory to me may not be satisfactory to you as an individual, okay? Increasing food sales per guest. So yes, that's measurable, but it's not very specific, okay? And so become the best hotel in the state, well, that's not very measurable. I mean, we could be the best on number one on TripAdvisor, then that's measurable, but we can't just say we'll be the best hotel in the state, right? So letter C is the best answer here. One way a manager can get an employee to accept a goal is to what? A, B, C, or D? All right, good. That was D. All of those things we can do to get an employee to accept a goal. All right, last one. Which of the following statements about managers setting goals for themselves is false? All right, the answer is C. Setting goals for ourselves isn't easy to do. It is not easy to do because sometimes it takes a little bit more time for us to create those goals for ourselves. We have to think a little bit more. Oftentimes we think we've got everything perfect, we're good to go. I don't really need to improve on anything. And so if you have that mindset of you don't have anything to improve on, well then there's not really any way that you're going to start thinking of goals that you can set to improve.